Hi, my name is Christian Lee and this is my 1963 Chevy 2 Nova. Right now this car has its stock 194 or 3 liter inline 6. It's got a 2-speed power glide going to a 308 differential. It's got really short stock tires. So this car is going to get the whole works. It's going to, right now, because what I have is a 1975 Buick Oddfire. It runs currently. I'm going to put it temporarily in this car in place of the inline 6. To do that, I'm going to need the V8 motor mounts that would have come on the SS model of this car, and they actually bolt right up to the subframe of this car. And the transmission that I'm going to swap into it is a TKO transmission. It is a 5-speed manual that is good for 500 foot-pounds of torque. It's got a 0.68 overdrive, which means it'll cruise really easy on the highway. And then it'll go out to a set of 355 positive traction gears. In terms of tires, we're thinking about 15x7 with a 205 just for now. And later, when I have more money, I have a 5.3 LM7, which is an iron block LS with aluminum heads, that'll take the Buick Oddfire's place. The Buick Oddfire is it's a special motor made by Buick, and Buick was the leading manufacturer in V6s at the time. And what Buick essentially did was take their small block V8 and chop 2 cylinders off. Well, the problem with that is because with 90-degree V8s, it creates an uneven firing pattern because it still fires like a V8. So it'll fire every 90 degrees and then it'll miss for 150 degrees, creating this odd Harley-Davidson lumpy sound. And the reason why I have this motor is I had a 1953 Jeep that it came in, and I wanted to keep it because I like the unique sound of the motor. But although this is ultimately going to get an LS, this is what I like. So far this car is completely stock. It's stock in drivetrain, axle, suspension, but right now we've got a set of Church Boys racing parts on the way. It's going to get coilovers, upper and lower A-arms, and it's going to get a rack and pinion set. And this is just to make it more of a daily driver. Right now it is currently on non-op because it's going to get a full tear down. And it is going to be a well-built car when I'm done with it. Right now it is not my daily just because it's not mechanically sound at this point. The power glide needs some work, the 194 leaks oil, and right now it's the project car. It'll be the project car. My daily driver is a 2002 Subaru Impreza, which has a 5-speed manual. This car is, for now, the plan is going to be a daily driver, and the reason why I chose the Nova to be a daily driver is that I can quite easily find replacement parts. Church Boys makes a very nice, reliable set of suspension components, and in terms of interior trim, you know, there's not a whole lot that goes on in terms of finding it. It's not hard, it costs money. I found exterior trim. This car did not come with the chrome trim, a lot of the chrome trim. I had to source a lot of this chrome trim and buy it, and chrome trim is usually going to be what's the most expensive part of this car. And overall it's going to be a repairable car. It's easy to reach parts, and all you need is a basic tool set to reach them to get most of the parts out on this car. With the Buick Oddfire motor in it, the V6s, they did not make a lot of horsepower stock, and the plan is with the Oddfire it'll be more of a daily driver, and then by the time it gets the LS it'll be ready to be a street and sometimes drag strip type car. It's more of a grand touring kind of car. I found this car in San Francisco. There was a seller out of Heath Street. He works at a tattoo shop, and I found it on a Craigslist ad for about $4,500, and I contacted him and we met and I test drove the car. I really liked it, and I decided this was going to be the daily driver of my future. to get it home, I drove it from San Francisco across the Golden Gate Bridge to Northern California, where I live. There haven't been any, just due to the fact that this car is so reliable. And it's not that the Nova was meant to be a super amazing car. It was just a car that was supposed to be... It was a car that was meant to be the stand-in for the Corvair, which was not a very good selling car. It was a unique car because it had its rear engine and flat six, but it was not a car that was easy to repair. It was a car that was a little bit expensive for a daily commuter car, and GM was losing market share to cars like the Ford Falcon and the Plymouth Fury and the Plymouth Valiant, and they decided to come up with this car, which ended up outselling all those cars. There's actually a pretty strong following behind this car. In the classic car community, this is actually one of the cheaper cars to get into, just due to there was a large sheer amount of numbers of these cars built. The following today, this car is pretty well recognized. I drive it around and people say, is that a Chevy 2 Nova? And they recognize it. There's a pretty big following in Northern California out here. There's a group called NorCal Novas, and every year they get together and they have a big barbecue and everyone checks out everyone's unique Novas. And you know, what sounds great about seeing a whole bunch of the same car, and what makes it great is you get to see the customization that people have done to make it their car. Because classic cars and car community is oftentimes, yes, it's about the car, but more often than not it's about meeting the people who love them, just as much as any other person would love different hobbies. As a daily driver, this car is a good-sized car. It has plenty of footwell space for, you know, front and rear passengers, and it's got plenty of trunk space too. It's got about 21 cubic feet, which is about the same space as my wagon. These Chevy 2s, one, they're easy to find parts for, as I mentioned earlier, and you know, they're about the same size as a Toyota Camry. They don't handle the same way as a Toyota Camry, but a Toyota Camry can't compete with this kind of looks. Well, it's a lot different than driving a modern car. A modern car, it has all the features that you need. You know, this car was how people lived in the 60s. To them, having manual drum brakes on all four corners was okay. To have to stomp on it to actually feel the brakes do something was okay to them. And to us, that's such a foreign thing. This is how people lived. This was their lives. You know, people went to the movies in these cars. People saw historical events driving in these cars. And it's good to understand how we lived.